Hello there, welcome to the channel, welcome back perhaps, and what we have for you today is a demo slash exploration of the Behringer bass Brassmaster fuzz, which we picked up cheap. It does not seem to have generated much buzz as a reissue, although it seems also to be known as a very particular and well-known sound from the 70s it is, I believe. And as a review, of course, bearing in mind that unless you're a contrabass clarinet player, or perhaps a horn player of some other description, this may not be of huge interest to you. As a review, maybe fun as a little exploration. A quick look at the pedal, obviously our bypass foot switch. There are three knobs here. There is, I'm going to work from the bottom up. There is the bass volume here at the bottom. The main reason that we were interested in this fuzz is because it seems to be one of the first ones that was specifically designed to be able to offer bassists the possibility of adding in their dry signal so that they don't lose so much of the definition, and that they can keep some of the low end that fuzz very often leaves behind. Then let's skip up to the top. This is brass volume. Basically bass and brass are the volumes of our dry signal and the volume of the fuzz. And sensitivity seems to be like a blending in of the brass volume, of the fuzz volume. We also have 2 foot switches. I'm sorry, one more quick note about the sensitivity. It is not that it is a wet-dry mix. It blends in the brass volume, the fuzz volume. So what that suggests is that essentially what we've got here is 2 gain stages, which is not something that I am fully educated about. It's also not something that, quite frankly, I'm sure would apply in the same way to a horn that it does to bass or any string instrument. But yeah, let's see where that goes. So the gain staging, we have the brass, 2 different brass voicings, which essentially two different kinds of fuzz, and within those we have 2 different possible harmonics. So 1 and 2 for the brass and the harmonic. We are going to be taking notes of the settings that we use as we go along. We are not expecting a huge amount of variation to be available, but we have been building a smaller pedalboard, which we will be definitely showing off a little bit more in future videos, having a lot of fun with that. We wanted something more portable than our previous creation, which we're thinking more of like our studio pedalboard. So let's dive in, and first of all I want to point something out about this bass volume here. Let's have a listen to the first sample we're going to use. We have our looper with samples, it's the Wally Plus, going into the float, the obne float, which we use to cut out the key noise from the contrabass, and also key noise and tonguing sound, so that we don't get such a harsh attack from the fuzz. And then after the fuzz, we've then got the NightSky reverb, which is currently not on and will be at some point. We just want to see how that sounds at the end. But what we're going to do is we're going to turn off the float. We have not engaged the bass Brassmaster fuzz yet. we are going to play a sample of the low C on the contrabass clarinet, our lowest note and only a semitone above the lowest note on the piano. So here is the sample. And with the float. Okay, you can hear that we lose something there with the float, so we will be maybe taking the float in and out to try out some different things. But let's turn on the bass Brassmaster and let's just give it like everything at noon as a nice little example. We will give one blast of the sample with the float and then one blast without. One with. And another without. Okay, so just a little note on the float, a float note, if you will, that might be nice to have some more headroom on the filter there. But that said, that gives us a really good sense of where we're at with the bass Brassmaster fuzz. Now what we're going to do is we're going to turn everything related to the fuzz down, and we're going to have a listen to this bass volume and keep it at noon, and maybe we'll just do a bit of comparison. The float is going to be on for the time being. There we go. That's all we've got here. Very simple. But if we try and get the volume roughly the same. So you can hear how there's actually a brightening of the tone there. Also, what you'll notice without the float is that there's also some loss of tone quality, loss of low end with this bass volume. Let's we'll do another blast with the float on. Try and match levels here. You can hear how we lose some low end, gain some high. But like that seems about maybe even there. Yeah, in terms of ob volume. Yeah, it's a shame that some low end is lost there. kind of in a little bit of a sense defeats the object, but it does have to be said, first of all, this is our lowest note, and I don't believe this effect is quite as marked as we move up the instrument. We'll give that a bit of a comparison with another sample very soon. For now, though, I want to compare it with the float off and on with this volume that we have chosen. So here we go. And now off for the float. One more time. There we go. Okay, so pretty simple conclusion there. There's definitely like a loss of tone with the bass volume, not necessarily unpleasant. One thing that it's worth noticing is that when we use the signal blender on our main pedal board, we do actually pump up the volume of the dry signal to meet the balance of the fuzz. So maybe we'll end up doing that here, and we do like having that intensity difference between a dry sound and a fuzzed up sound. So let's see though, if I remember correctly, there is a situation where it is actually possible to get a bit more low end when we pump up the volume. Let's just see how that sounds. One more little comparison. Yeah, okay. So, maybe it's just a function of the volume being higher, like what's the word, like an audio, not hallucination, but like an audio factor of having the volume up. But it does feel like we get a bit more bass end there. So I'm going to leave it at noon here for now. Let us do a quick little bit of comparison with a different sample. This is our sub-bass range on the contra, and this is with the float on, and first of all this off. I'll take the float off. Okay, that very much feels like it's in a good place. So keeping that at noon, nice. I would even use that as an effect with all of these other guys turned down. Might be interesting to compare that to actually look at how much of that low end is present on some kind of like graphic display with the volume boosted there, and to see if it is equivalent to what we get without the fuzz. Anyway, for now, turning that all down, and let's turn these guys up to noon, and we're just going to get a feel for the 4 different possibilities with our knobs here. What we're going to do for this is actually go to the full range option that we have available. So this is the full range of the contra, using the method that we devised previously. I mean, this whole thing is a previous method that we've used where we tend to work from the bottom up, but we're just going to run it through. There's not going to be any dry signal in here. This is just the fuzz, and we'll keep these guys at noon and try out the 4 different possibilities there tone-wise. Also worth noting that the float is back on. No. Here we go. First, just the sample. Okay. Comparison. It's particularly nice. Back to the original setting. Okay, some very pleasant fuzzy goodness there that we are very happy to be exploring. Now, looking at the manual for the Brassmaster fuzz, it seems that the way that they describe the difference between Brass 1 and Brass 2 is that it switches between distortion modes to shape the fuzz tone. Brass 1 offers more treble bite, while Brass 2 emphasizes mid-range in the distortion. And then for the harmonics, number 1 switches between filters. Positions 1 and 2 switch between filters to emphasize higher frequencies in number 1 or lower frequencies in harmonic 2. I mean, I'm much more drawn to the number 2s of the harmonics. That seems to be getting us like richer tones, but like the other ones, though, we can still use as, you know, because we've got such a nice strong dry in kind of quotation marks, dry signal there. This will be interesting to compare. Now, one thing I do want to check out though is like how does the gain staging here affect it? So I'm going to leave the dry signal out for now, and we're going to go to our bass range on the contrabass. We'll have a listen through to that. Now without the fuzz. Okay, so actually, maybe it would be better to go all the way back to that low C, because that gives us a chance to work with something that's more sustained. Let's have a listen to that. And we're going to try playing with these against each other. Here we go. Okay, starting to get an idea. Let's take this over to that same thing as before. I imagine it's not just for this low C, but it really does seem like there's a lot of interplay between these two guys possible, where, for example, a high brass volume and a low and using this sensitivity to like taper it can give us some really interesting effects. Okay. This is in danger of becoming a deep dive. there's a lot of interplay here. Very interesting. But if we turn this compare that with and then, for example, ooh, lovely. Let's go back to the original. Okay, just a quick note that having brass at noon, brass volume at noon, and then changing sensitivity does seem to be providing some really interesting, just different textural possibilities. I think that what we should probably do is leave that at noon for now, and then see how things go. We're going to start mixing in the bass volume, because we want to start actually noting down some sounds that we would like to use, and having these two guys as stable things and then playing with the sensitivity seems like a good way to actually get some stuff made, some stuff written down. Okay, so back to that same range, and here we go. Interesting. Compare those two. Yeah. Okay. So I think we found two sounds that we quite like here, where we've got it at like 9, is that 9 o'clock? No, that's 8 o'clock. And 10 o'clock. Let's just have a quick ganders at that. Yeah, it's quite different sounds. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna make a note of that. Brass on one, harmonic on one, and noon for both of the volumes. And since I think I prefer it at 8 o'clock or 10. Yeah, I'm more partial to the 8 though, I think. So I will put a circle around that. Okay. Now, let's move on to how this will sound with the harmonics in the 2 position. It's quite interesting. Similar again. Let's see what happens if we... those positions. Makes a big difference. Okay. Yeah. Even over here is quite nice. Okay. It doesn't make... Okay, in this setting for the brass and harmonics knobs, doesn't seem to be much worth going above the 9 o'clock mark, and I think I actually prefer 9. So, harmonic 2 for this one, once again, noon and noon seem to be reasonable constants to maintain, with the cents at 9 as our favorite, or 8. Okay, this seems to be coming along quite nicely. Let us move over now to harmonic 1 and brass 2. So, I remember this one being considerably softer. I don't know if that's the right word, but like more subdued, let's say. So let's dive in and have a listen. Oh, that's nice and dirty. Seems to be something about that 9 o'clock. If we put this up higher. Ooh. Nice. Okay, yeah, this voice definitely wants to be treated differently, and it was actually getting overwhelmed a bit by the dry signal there. I'm going to see about just having the brass and the sensitivity all the way up. Very spitty and and a bit thin. But then quite pleasant. One more go. Okay, I think leaving the bass volume at like 9 actually allows for some of that thinness to come through. And again, like 8 or 9 for the sensitivity. Okay, so this is brass 2 and harmonic 1. We've got the brass volume at max. We've got the bass volume at 9 o'clock. And we've got our sensitivity at 8 or 9. And to be honest, of the two, I think I preferred 8. Let's have a quick listen. Yeah, I think I prefer 8 there. There we go. I mean 8 or 9, but 8 being preferable. Okay, that leaves us with one more thing to play with. We've got the mid-range tone, and I remember this one being a little bit more forward, a little bit more intense. So let's take this out for now. I think we can bring this back. Oof, nice. Squashy. Can we keep that? There's a few places there. Ooh, lovely. Okay. Okay, wow, that is a very diverse setting, and I like it very much. It very much feels like we get quite different feelings from both 8, 9, and noon with the sensitivity there. Okay. Let's make a quick note of that. So, brass volume, noon. Bass volume, again, we're at 9. So like for brass 2, we kind of want it at 9. Consistently, yeah, that's a handy little thing. But that's it. This setting here has got some lovely stuff going on. 8 or 9 or noon, and that's kind of like equally very, very handy there. Well, let's take a minute to do a little overview of it all, and we're going to switch things to the full range of the contra. And I think that for each of these we're probably going to do like a full range sweep, which will be 1. So this is each of the 4 positions that these two together can make. Plus, for each one there's like a preference that we have. Okay, a couple of different preferences. So if we're going back to 1 there, we've got, for the sensitivity knob, we got 8 or 10. 8 or 10. So let's do 8 first, and then we'll go to 10. To 10. Squelchy. Okay. This is turning out to be yielding us some really slightly, subtly different, but very, very enjoyable tones. I must admit, I was a little skeptical about this at first, but even though the bass volume doesn't give us like a true tone, I think we're still getting good things here. Okay, so we're going to go to brass 2 now, and for the first one we had volume maxed, bass volume at 9, I'm sorry there, and this 8 or 9, but 8 was our preference. Okay, and we will run through these. Noticeably different. Okay, so let's go into the second harmonic setting. Stays at this goes to noon, and we've found 8 or 9 or noon to be all of interest to us. So let's have a listen. A delay. Okay. By delay, of course, there I meant actually reverb. My apologies. That was the NightSky, and one of our kind of pad-like reverbs that we have created using a further clockwise size pitch setting. See what our previous videos for all of that. But holy hell, that was excellent. Very, very happy there. I mean, quite frankly, I can see myself just leaving it in this setting and adjusting the sensitivity knob to get some really interesting different effects live. But we will see. I believe that's it for us for now, and I hope that this has been as interesting and enjoyable for you as it has been for us, and it has been very interesting and enjoyable. What an exploration. Thank you for sticking around, and until next time, take care.